everyone. Thanks for joining me for this special edition. I'm Sarah Coates and we'll be live for the next hour bringing you all the updates from the situation on the ground as Russia continues its 22nd day of the invasion of Ukraine. Well, here's what the last 24 hours have looked like. Taking you live now to Kiev, where we're joined by Ukrainian journalist, writer and filmmaker Ilarion Pavluk. Look, firstly, Ilarion, thank you very much for your time. You were standing by there in Kiev. You've joined the fight against this Russian invasion. Tell me, you know, it's coming under increased bombardment where you are. Paint us a picture of what it's been like on the ground for the last day.
Hello, and thank you for keeping an eye on Ukraine and for helping Ukraine. The center of the city is more or less calm. There are frequent airstrike alerts, and at night there are airstrikes and even artillery strikes. But, well, I would say Kiev itself is more or less safe and absolutely controlled. We don't speak about suburbs of Kiev, where, as you know, heavy fights are going already for a long time. But here is where I am. You see, well, actually, pretty calm situation.
Are you expecting this to remain this way for the next day or, you know, the near future?
Oh, I would say everybody here is ready for any attempts of enemy to storm the city every hour. We are ready. I would say you cannot let yourself to expect that everything will be fine or like this. You need to be ready. I'm pretty sure they will try to storm Kiev. When? Well, it depends. You should ask Ukrainian army commanders. They see the situation better.
Yes. And, you know, you are a journalist, a filmmaker, a writer. Now you are in combat. Tell me, you know, what is it like and what made you decide to do this?
Okay, I haven't been yet on the front line. You need to understand now I'm now on defensive positions here in Kiev. What did make me to go to the army? In 2015, back in 2015, I already have been a volunteer in an army unit, and I had some fighting experience on the east of Ukraine. And now most people with fighting experience and tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands, just common people join the army because, you know, we have no choice. Do you remember Golda Meir said about Israel and your enemies that they want us to be dead and we wanted to be alive? And this has left us very little space for compromise. The same about us. This is war, and Putin wants to eliminate independent Ukraine, free Ukraine, and they are killing now more civilians than military. More civilians. They're trying to kill as much people as they can. So no choice. And especially if you have any military background, any understanding of how to shoot, you know, you have to go. And you need to understand that I don't know how did it happen that I'm on different international TV channels giving interview, but I'm just one of like 300,000 people now in Ukrainian army, in Ukrainian defense and territorial defense. There are hundreds of thousands of volunteers, and most of them never took any weapon in their arms. But we have no choice. We will win, and we have no other choice.
And I want to know personally, how does what you are experiencing, how does it make you feel?
I have 4 children. 4 children. Every night, there is in the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, every night there is a airstrike alert, and they're running into corridor because it's too far to run to the shelter, and in corridor they're more protected. They're used to it, and I understand that either we stop them or they will come to each city, to every city. Either I stop them here or they will come to Ivano-Frankivsk and will bomb Ivano-Frankivsk as they do now in Mariupol. How do I feel? Of course I'm scared to be killed. It is not an easy decision. Of course I want to go back to my cozy apartments, to my 4 children. Currently, not currently, before the war, I was working on children's book.
Yeah.
I want to continue this war.
Ilarion, I want to know, I want to jump in here. What did you tell your children? What do you tell your children in a situation like this?
I promised them to come back. And they understand that we need to stop the enemy. Because the war for us, for my family, the war started when cruise rockets, cruise missiles strike not far from our house in Ivano-Frankivsk in the morning. So it was very obvious for everybody that the war has come already. So I think my children understand that we have to fight. And they believe me when I say that I promise you to come back.
And, tell me, I don't want an exact location, but, how safe is your family? Are they in the city still or have they left?
No, they are still in the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, which is on the western Ukraine and more or less calm except airstrikes. But there is no completely safe city in Ukraine now. There is no such place. So I would say I hope they are safe. Every morning I am waiting a message from them that they are safe.
And, just finally, fairly briefly, we are seeing incredible scenes of resilience coming out of Ukraine. How much is this sort of unifying everybody?
Or this Ukraine nation now is absolutely unified. I would say that everybody is doing something for the victory, either volunteers to their army or helping the army or working for some business which has to work to keep the economy. But this is really the moment of understanding who we are. Why do we call ourselves a nation?
Yes.
So this gives some optimism, and this gives some faith that we cannot lose this war.
Ilarion, look, I'm thinking about you and your kids. Thank you so very much for taking the time to come on with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. We will win.
You will. All right, we're taking you out for a short break, but we'll continue with our coverage when we return. Don't go anywhere.
Breaking news again. But there's always more to the story, especially here in the Middle East.
What's really going on in the region? Well, unless you're actually here, you can't really tell.
Join us here at the beating heart of the new Middle East
To get a true perspective on what's really going on.
News 24 is a Spanish-language weekly news magazine on I-24 News, presented by respected journalists Carlos Gurevich and Damian Pachter, bringing you news and analysis of the most important issues of the Middle East and Israel, with the added perspective of the impact on the Spanish-speaking world. News 24, only on I-24 News.
These images haven't been seen in Europe for decades, but now they have become Ukraine's daily reality. As Russia wages war against the Ukraine, our correspondents are on the ground, on the streets, in cities, on the border. Ukraine under fire. Special coverage only on I-24 News. Imagine being able to see into the future.
We can take you there. What innovations will change the world as we know it? Where can you get the most bang for your buck? I'm Natasha Kirchuk, journalist, traveler, and the host of Israel Business Beat. Join us as we meet the people changing our planet and discover the inventions shaping tomorrow.
Israel Business Beat, Sundays and Wednesdays, 9:30 p.m. GMT.
Well, over 3 million Ukrainian refugees have fled the war-torn country. A majority of them have crossed over into Poland. Our correspondent Natasha Kirchuk is there on the ground at the Polish border with Ukraine and filed this report.
So right now, we're just 30 minutes away from the Medyka border crossing between Ukraine and Poland in the Polish town of Przemyśl, which has been hosting thousands upon thousands of refugees from Ukraine who are fleeing the violence after Russia's invasion just 3 weeks ago. Now, at this point, it's estimated that more than 3 million people have fled Ukraine, and the vast majority are making their way into Poland. In fact, it's believed that over 70%, more than 2 million refugees have crossed into this country, and once they cross that border, they're shuttled to different emergency service centers around the country, like the one that is right behind me. This is a humanitarian aid center that is equipped with almost everything that a person could need after fleeing such a violent situation. So what we're seeing here is a shopping mall of sorts. It's been converted into a safe haven for refugees who have been traveling for days on end to get here. You have a clinic inside of here. You have sleeping cots. There's a children's game room. You can see a lot of different tents around here that are serving hot food from various different countries. There's even paella from Spain. And the idea is for this to be a sort of first stop for most of these refugees until they're able to figure out where they're going next. Now, most of the refugees stay here briefly until they move to other European locations. Some of them have family, friends in other places. But then there are those who end up staying here more than just a couple of days or a week, and it could be because they have a family member who is sick and is getting medical treatment that's taking longer than expected, or they just don't really know where to go. And we're hearing a lot of stories of women who are saying, you know, our husbands are in Ukraine. We don't want to go any farther than this. All right, now, it's important to keep in mind that most of the refugees that you're seeing here are women, children, and the elderly. Most of them have been traveling for days on end through war-torn Ukraine to get here. Transportation has been extremely difficult, and you can see the exhaustion and the heartbreak on their faces. Most of them, like I said, have left behind the men in their lives, since men between the ages of 18 and 60 aren't allowed to leave Ukraine. They're being asked to stay and fight against the Russian invasion. So really, it's a very heartbreaking situation, but we're seeing volunteers from around the world, not only Israel, but really around the world, showing up to try to provide that support. Another very important thing to keep in mind is that we're seeing a lot of Polish armed forces staying in this area. The reason is that there are reports of trafficking, and they want to make sure that the right people are coming in here and that nobody is coming in here with the wrong intention. Now, we're really seeing an amazing, amazing turnout from Israel in terms of humanitarian support. The Israeli organization Natan, Hadassah Hospital International, and Rescue Without Borders are here on the ground. I had the chance to speak with them today.
And we joined the Red Cross Clinic, kind of giving day-to-day care for people in need, mostly the refugees with common problems. I'm a pediatrician. We have a family doctor and ER nurses and many kids. That's what we see a lot. Some with chronic problems that needs addressing. For example, kids with autism who became very agitated with this new movement. A kid who got burns on the way, we needed acute treatment. And a lot of reassurance. So parents are very much in stress and they're worried about their children. So that's mostly what we do here.
It's important to keep in mind that the clinic behind us is not just treating people who were injured in the violence. A lot of refugees that are coming here are sick from traveling for so long and of course, freezing conditions. They haven't showered for days on end. Coronavirus is sadly rampant here because there's really no way to control for it and everybody's living in very tight quarters. So what you're seeing is a lot of people who are just sick from all of this. And then to add to it, there's the emotional trauma of being forced to flee your home and really not knowing if you're ever really going to be able to go back. It's really heartbreaking to see.
All right, let's now take you live to Odessa, where we are joined by Fadia Saduk, who is a tactical medical instructor. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Look, firstly, what is the latest from the ground there where you are? How close do you believe Russian forces are from you now?
Well, thank you for having me here. It is not an assumption where Russians are. We know pretty well where they are, and their closest destination is the Black Sea, because their warships are missiling Ukrainian soil every night. Usually in the night, they send missiles to destroy civilian and military infrastructure. Also, in 70 kilometers far away from Odessa, there is unrecognized state of Transnistria, which is occupied by Russia for 30 years. So Russian troops are there for sure.
And Fadia, you are a medical instructor. What does that mean in this situation, and what are you doing to help there?
Well, I used to be an entrepreneur listed in Forbes 30 and the 30 Europe for my company, teaching first aid. And the probably only benefit being in that tough situation is that I have no second of doubt. What should I do to help? I'm just continue organizing and teaching first aid and supply medical equipment to those who are fighting for Ukrainian freedom. So we try to teach as many people as first aiders and medics in modern standards as we can.
And, given that, tell me, are there enough supplies to keep you going? And, what are the sort of most common things you are seeing coming through that need attention?
The supplies is not at all enough because nobody could calculate, nobody could expect such violence. We are attacked by Russian troops, according to the intel, around 200,000, which is crazy amount, the biggest war in Europe since World War II, from 3 sides at least, or 4 sides, and they don't pick up their targets. They're targeting civilians, so we have tens of thousands casualties, mainly among civilian population. Not in Odessa, but generally in the country. In Odessa, we have the small groups of subversives now working against us. So the supplies is not enough. We receive a lot of IFAKs, individual first aid kits, including tourniquets, Israeli, and other bandages, but more to come, because we really need every single soldier to have his individual first aid kit, every ambulance to be equipped for the new challenge, let's say, threats. So we need more supplies to ambulances, to soldiers, and to hospitals.
And, Fadia, we know that Ukraine has a very prominent Jewish community. How is that community banding together?
Well, these days are the days of unity among the whole Ukrainian nation. When I say Ukrainian nation, I do not mean only Ukrainians, because Ukrainian nation, in my humble opinion, is a political nation, not It's not about blood, not about religion. In Odessa, we have 120 plus nationalities living together. And Odessa was one of the biggest had one of the biggest Jewish communities. So now people united, and it doesn't matter what country your parents came from or what language do you speak. I know that many Jewish businessmen contribute to Ukrainian defense, and I know that many Jewish people are fighting in their fronts, in military, in media, in international level, to protect the sovereignty and independence and freedom of Ukraine and life of our people. However, when two countries have dispute and they cannot solve it and they go to war, it is a mess, it is a tragedy, but it is not disaster, it happens. But when one country wants to eliminate, to kill, to vanish another nation, and I do not want to dramatize or to sound childish, but that's what we see happening, when Russia sends huge bombs from the planes to our, let's say, maternity hospitals. It is nothing else but a disaster. So it is no longer a matter of Russia and Ukraine. It is the matter of whole world. And I want to say that we appreciate help from everybody, including Israeli political leadership, Israeli citizen, Israeli people, and Jews living in Ukraine. Thank you, everybody, for help us.
And Fadir, thank you very much for your time and for the work that you are doing. It's very important.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. All right, and joining me now here in studio is Bernard Merdler, who is the founder and head of a project known as Ukraine Siren Alerts. Thank you for coming in today. Look, firstly, tell us about the project and the work that you are doing.
So Ukraine Siren Alerts, or UASA, is a system that automatically alerts people of sirens in Ukraine. Development of the project began around the beginning of the conflict, and initially I started researching the idea after conversations with my girlfriend, who's from Ukraine, about the systems that they have available there in the country. After that, I did some research more into the system and found out that it's quite antiquated in comparison to the ones we have available here in Israel. You see, people who are outside of Ukraine can't easily access the system to find out if alerts are going on. And on top of that, you can't get alerts for multiple locations. So what this means is that if you have, let's say, family members in Kiev, but you've just evacuated to Moldova, you won't be able to easily get access to information as to what's going on there in terms of siren reports. So I created in response UASA, which works by automatically taking data from municipalities. These municipalities and cities post the data to Telegram chats, Facebook, on their websites. They post these alerts, and UASA consolidates that data and automatically posts the reports onto its Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and soon its mobile app and website.
Wow, this is amazing. You're doing such great work. Tell me, Bernard, this is non-profit. You don't charge people for it, and you have funded this entirely on your own. How can people donate to give you some help there?
So just the other day, we actually launched the donation page for UASA. It can be found via the links on our various social media channels. The main link for it, though, is GiveButter. That's one word, GiveButter.com/UASA. And through there, you can donate to help us with funding for the project itself, and those funds will be used towards app development, website development, and just keeping the system running as long as we can.
And how are people responding to all of this? How do you sort of get them to tune in and get that message out?
Well, the program got popular very, very quickly, and that was in part due to the fact that many journalists actually found the page almost immediately after it was live, and these people started posting about it, started using it in their reports. Furthermore, we have different online communities that are sharing the page itself. Communities like one that's very popular called Project Owl, which does something called open source intelligence. And they're actually, they have a channel dedicated directly to alerts. So they're constantly posting whenever an alert happens.
All right, and tell me, just briefly, we've got about a minute left. What else are you working on, Bernard?
So in terms of Ukraine alerts, we're working on the app, which will be able to give alerts to people directly, bypassing, of course, the silent on their phone and notifying them.
Because that's very important. A lot of people always have their phone on silent.
Yeah, it would bypass the silence on their phone and notify them, similar to how the system here works in Israel. But we're also working on SMS-based messaging for people who don't have access to Wi-Fi in certain regions of Ukraine, and a website which will have data that you can look over as well.
Well, Bernard, you're certainly very, very busy, and you've done an incredible thing. Thank you so much for coming in today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right, it's time for a very short break, but we'll continue with our coverage when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
It's a living, breathing organism that pulsates through millennia. Touch it, listen to it, smell it, taste it. Experience the Holy Land like never before. Holy Land Uncovered, every Sunday, only on i24 News. Discover i24 News Radio. Now you can listen to i24 News anywhere, anytime, for free. i24 News Radio is the audio live stream of the television network with world headlines every 30 minutes starting from 7 a.m. Tune in for top news, magazines editions while in the car, in your office. Join us from your smartphone, tablet, or desktop to stay connected in the Middle East and around the world. Don't wait any longer. Head to our website or mobile application and click on i24 News Radio to subscribe.
Strictly Security, your weekly look into security, intelligence, and strategic affairs. Our team brings the latest on the major international conflicts, analysis of the major security issues right here in the Middle East and around the globe. Join us for a close look at innovative military technology and get up to speed with what's happening in cyberspace. Saturdays, only on i24 News.
We're on the inside of political and religious passions in Jerusalem, breaking down the financial trends shaping the global economy, giving you key context, not just headlines, with the stories from Israel that touch the U.S. and those across the region with impact far beyond its borders. Catch the rundown where the Middle East meets the world.
welcome back. Well, since speaking out against the war is off limits in Russia, some ordinary Russians are taking a stand abroad. Well, this week, a large crowd attended an anti-war concert in Istanbul, headlined by a top Russian rap artist. And as CNN reports, no one there missed a beat in criticising the invasion.
To protest Putin's war, top Russian rap artist Oxymoron cancelled concerts in Russia. On Tuesday, he kick-started the first of his Russians Against War charity gigs in Istanbul. Proceeds from this concert streamed live, he announced, will be going to Ukraine, and donations came rolling in fast.
Tickets for this event sold out pretty much immediately. It is packed here, but not everyone is here for the music.
I want to meet people with the same views as me. I want to meet with them and to feel that I'm not alone with this position.
And 28-year-old Anatoly is not alone. Many here left Russia in recent days, escaping a crackdown on dissent, where thousands have been detained at protests. Even calling Putin's invasion what it is, a war, has been criminalized.
When we are posting something on social media, at least we know that nobody's going to come for us. But back home, even now, they have a new law. If you post something that you can be arrested, at least we can speak up from here.
Like many of those here tonight, Masha and Daria have no plan. They just bought plane tickets and left the country.
Lockdown, sanctions, and it's not we are not feeling safe there. We are afraid of this Iron Curtain thing.
They're here to help Ukraine, they say. It's the least they can do.
It's very hard to feel that you are on the side of aggressor, you know, it's like you feel responsibility, you feel shame. You're also a victim of the situation because back home it didn't feel like it's very hard to understand what can you do.
The crowd spontaneously chants what they couldn't back in Russia, no to war. Tonya just arrived in Istanbul. She says she was detained and fined in St. Petersburg for taking part in a protest. She had to leave her parents behind. Opposing the war has even torn apart her own family.
They watch TV and they listen to propaganda, and it's really hard because now many families in Russia are divided between these two sides, those who are against war and those who unfortunately support, but they even don't know what do they support.
Tonya, do you have hope that you will have a future in your country someday?
During the Putin's regime, no. No, definitely not.
There is so much uncertainty here. It's the fear of the unknown. Many don't know when or if they'll be able to go back home. Jumana Karache, CNN, Istanbul.
Let's now take you live to Georgia, where we're joined by Ilya Krasilchik, who is an outspoken Russian journalist and activist. Ilya, thank you so much for your time. Look, firstly, I want to ask you...
Sarah.
Hello. Could you have ever envisaged this situation to happen?
No. I can say that I think even the day before the war, I didn't believe it can happen. So we thought it can be something awful, but nobody in my I don't know social circle, social bubble believed that this kind of war is possible. As a prominent Russian politologist Ekaterinina Shulman said that the craziest people were right. Nobody believed that this could happen.
And Ilya, you know, you are now in exile. You are in Georgia, as I mentioned, you know, but definitely continuing to speak out for your anti-war stance and rhetoric. You know, what is the likelihood of you ever returning to your homeland?
So the good news, I'm young. So I'm not sure that we can plan anything in such circumstances. We don't know what will happen the next week. So we're in the middle of the war. Surely the active war is inside Ukraine, and this is awful. But in Russia, the situation is not far. It's very far from normal. So this is a war everywhere. So we don't know. I want to come back, but in such circumstances, I think it's impossible, and it's really dangerous.
And tell me, we are seeing so much Russia-phobia happening right now. What are your experiences there in Georgia? Have you ever experienced anything like that since you've been there?
There's a lot of conversations about this Russophobia. Actually, this is kind of a strange word, Russophobia. A lot of people in Russia and the state television, they said that Russophobic, this is the people who fled the country. Me, by example, or you had the heartbreaking report from Istanbul, and they said that Russophobic are these people. Still, if we're talking about Georgia, we don't know how many people came here from Russia. We think that this is dozens of thousands of people, and Georgia have a long and a really complicated relationships with Russia. So it was a war here 14 years ago in 2008, and Russia invaded Georgia. So people here, first of all, they're afraid that Russia will come here to save us. This is one fear. Second fear is they don't know who we are, and some people say, "So come back and fight." Actually, I don't know what does it mean to come back and fight. We tried, and in such circumstances, so you see what's happening in Russia. So you see it right now. This is how we fight right now. So I think this is a difficult moment for everybody. And am I okay with this such feelings here from the Georgians? No, but I understand it.
And I want to
Russia
jump
is a
in
dangerous
there.
country for the
Sure. With regards to fear, you have so many posts on what this war means for Russians. We've seen this famous blogger Belanika, who's now been identified by the Kremlin as a person of interest. Given that and what you've just told me, how worried are you for your safety?
So I don't know how to measure the chances of something, anything. The main threat right now is this law, anti-fake law, as we call it. It's really easy to be prosecuted under this law. You just need to begin the war and call the war, not a special operations. This is enough to be. So if you call this the war, for Russian prosecution, this is a fake. So under the fake law, you can get the sentence from 3 to 15 years, as far as I remember. So in this, actually, the situation is easy right now. If you want to, be open about what you think about what's happening, so you can. You don't know where you need to stop to be prosecuted. So that's why you actually can say anything you want. Yeah.
And Aliyah,
I can get this prosecution as well, for sure. Yeah.
We have less than a minute left. If you could stand one-on-one with Vladimir Putin, what would you say to him?
I talked a lot with Vladimir Putin, but only in my dreams. I have a lot of dreams with Vladimir Putin, unfortunately. And actually, this conversation went well every time we met. We understood each other. But in such circumstances, the only thing I can say to him, actually, I don't have anything to say to him. He just needs to leave.
Yeah. Aliyah,
there is no place for conversation, I think,
Yeah, look, we really appreciate your time and, all the effort that you're putting into standing with Ukraine and all of your social media posts. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. All right, it's time for a very short break, but we'll be back with more coverage after that. Don't go anywhere.
to the I-24 News Desk.
Now more details on a developing story.
Breaking news at this hour.
It is history in the making.
When news breaks in the Middle East and around the world, our team of experienced journalists are here, around the clock.
To keep you up to date with the news of the day.
Where it happens, when it happens.
Stay tuned and stay informed.
Every day on the hour.
The heart of the new Middle East beats on I-24 News.
Welcome back. Well, another war is raging over Ukraine online, where Russian disinformation is flooding social media, now being met by a determined resistance fighting back with the truth, armed with videos and images of the death and destruction caused by Putin's war of choice. Well, CNN's Donny O'Sullivan talks to online activists on the front line of an information war.
You know, you should be here in Poland. You should see all these people, refugees from Ukraine, people like you and me.
Hackers fighting against Russia's information war.
We knew that there are people all around the world who would like to do something. But since they can't buy a gun and fight against Russia, we decided to let them use their smartphones instead.
This man, part of so-called Squad 303, online activists in Poland who have built a tool that allows anyone to send text messages and emails to Russians to give them information about the war in Ukraine, an attempt to get around Vladimir Putin's growing digital Iron Curtain. Russia recently cut off access to Facebook and Twitter.
There's a new group that just came out with a website to allow you to text Russian cell phones.
So how many text messages do you think you've sent to Russians over the past few weeks?
3, 4, 5, 6,000. I couldn't even count. It just keeps going.
Tyden Crawford, a truck salesman in Oregon, has spent hours messaging Russians. He says most of his texts don't get a response, and some people tell him to go away, but others engage.
It's been a mixed bag. I had a gentleman pretty early on that reached out to me and sent me a picture of where he's working, and then I sent him, we found out we like to travel, so I sent him pictures of my travels. He sent me pictures of his travels.
I'm from a generation of Radio Free Europe, and we all remember how hard it is to live in an enslaved country where you do not have proper information, real information about the world. I can remember the time when we used to listen to Radio Free Europe, the only voice from the free world for enslaved people in Poland.
It's named after Thomas Kent is the former CEO of Radio Free Europe and an expert in Russian disinformation.
Do you think some people in Russia will be receptive to these messages, or will they say, why is there an American sending me a text message?
Well, a certain number of people are going to say, yeah, absolutely, this is hostile propaganda, this is spam, this is an attempt at psychological warfare against us. But many others will be grateful for some information that they're having trouble to get, and maybe be affected by the fact that there's someone out at the end of the communication who really would like to hear from them.
Other so-called hacktivists taking a different approach. On the Telegram app, a group called the Ukraine IT Army has amassed 300,000 members. It sends out lists of Russian websites to attack.
You're a coder, not a gunner.
Yes, that's true.
We spoke to an organizer of the group over the phone. He said he is in Ukraine.
So I think I saw over the weekend you took down some food delivery services, like for takeout in Russia. I think I saw you guys targeted some banking services in Russia. I mean, what you're doing is targeting Russian citizens, people in Russia. Do you think that's fair?
Oh, that's exactly the point that I wanted to convey, right? We want those people feel that the war is started, and not only Ukraine involved on that. Because there are many people in Russia, they don't feel that the war is there, and we want them to feel that.
Tony O'Sullivan, CNN, New York.
All right, moving on, in a theatre and swimming facility in Mariupol, where hundreds of people were taking refuge, including children, was bombed in Russian airstrikes late Wednesday. Well, CNN has geolocated the image and confirmed it's of the theatre, and videos show a fire raging in the theatre's ruins. Well, the city council says Russian forces purposely dropped a bomb on the building where hundreds of peaceful Mariupol residents were hiding. Well, according to preliminary data, the number of dead and injured is unknown. Well, CNN's Nick Patton-Walsh has the story.
The flicker of flame here, where Russia's barbarism peaked, and an airstrike hit a bomb shelter hiding hundreds beneath a theatre, said local officials. The damage so complete, the entrance was reduced to rubble. This satellite image from 2 days earlier showing the building standing with children written large outside. In case you're still thinking nobody knew who was here, videos had been circulating for days of the hell inside. How over a week of siege and shelling had forced those still living into a space so tight and dark it must have felt like a tomb. Here, he says, is where we give out food to children, women and elderly first. This is the converted cloakroom of the theatre. If this looks like how you imagined the end of the world, for these children, packed in, that may have been the case when the bomb struck. Russia claimed Ukrainian radicals caused the blast. In this room, 15 people, the narrator says. Little comfort any parent can give, bar the lie this would be over soon. And below this store, there are yet more. An entire city forced underground. Little aid allowed in and few allowed out. People hear us. Here are children, he says. His appeal is for food, help. Perhaps unaware, it may have led Russian bombs straight to them. The swimming pool was also hit, a place where this narrator says a pregnant woman was trapped under the rubble and where only expectant mothers and those with under threes hid. The Kremlin wants to break or flatten this port, but its defenders still exact a cost, still keep them out. This drone video shows the moment Ukrainian fighters hit a Russian tank. The shots come again and again, removing one of the tank's tracks. The crew are later seen hit as they try to flee. No room for mercy in a city that has little space left for life itself. Nick Patton-Walsh, CNN, Odessa, Ukraine.
And joining me here in studio is Mila, who is a Ukrainian TikToker and a singer, and also Eza, who runs a store, an online store for army supplies, right? Thank you so very much, both of you, for coming in. Look, firstly, I just want to ask you, you said to me just before, I asked you if you were Ukrainian, you said, I am at heart, and you are Ukrainian. How are you guys holding up through all of this?
I think it's better that Mila will...
Yeah. I will tell you my story. Yeah, like 20 days ago, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I opened the news. It's the first time in my life that I've opened a news at 5 o'clock in the morning. I felt something inside, and I see that starts the war in my country, in Ukraine, and I didn't know what to do. Like 3 days, I was out from my life. It's ended like my husband asked me, listen, do you have someone? I asked, like, why? From all these questions. He said, no, you are going out from house. What's happening? I was really going out, crying in the car. I didn't want to do it in my house. It was really, really very hard time. But after I understand that I have to do something, I can't sit and cry, and I have to try to help on my place to my country how I can. So I start to look for help everywhere.
It's shocking, isn't it? It's something that you just would not expect to happen.
And then I got the call from someone I didn't know at that moment. And today, actually, I know that maybe we have Gal Gadot in Hollywood, Wonder Woman, but this is Wonder Woman in Israel, that she's making an amazing efforts and activity for the Ukrainian people. It doesn't matter, children, adult, everyone that she can help. She called me, she told me I needed help. I need different equipment, thermal equipment, and some other stuff, socks, and backpacks, whatever you have, sleeping bags, whatever you have, we can help those people. And then I understood that she collect people, collect money from a lot of people, and I was really very impressed from when she came to my place.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. You know, what is it exactly, Mila? You're on TikTok. How are you using social media to sort of get the message out there?
Yeah, my TikTok is not a very serious channel. You know, I'm making magics and all this stuff like I was making before. But after all this happened, I can't. I was trying to do something because I know my audience. They are not the audience that want to see the wars and all these things. But I can't. I'm showing all real pictures, what's happening in Ukraine. TikTok already blocked few of my videos because it's because maybe it's not the pictures. I understand, for children not so nice to show,
but it's the truth.
But this is the truth, and you cannot hide it, you know. Like in Russia, people don't know what's happening. Really, they know totally different story. All the nation, it's unbelievable.
And all of these platforms have already been blocked, you know, Instagram, YouTube, etc. You know, and what is it that you are doing? You know, how are you guys collaborating?
Actually, she is coming with demand. Sheva, by the way, she is amazing. Really, again, I will tell it. Whatever we need, because to deliver it also, it's very difficult to deliver to Ukraine. So we need another country, maybe Romania, maybe Poland. And I tell her, we need a company in Poland. After half an hour, she come back. I found a company that will help her. And actually, she collect the money, and we give her, and we also give from our side also some of the equipment. Like I said before, because now very cold still in Ukraine, and there is a lot of people that lost their houses and children, everything, and we are especially focused on the humanitarian side, stuff for like I said, the gloves and everything that can help those people that lost their houses.
What is it that people need now? What is the thing that's really lacking that people can do to help these people?
Actually,
and how can they help you?
How you can help us?
You're already helping us, really, that, you know, we can say about everything that we are doing, that people will know that Ukraine, it didn't stop. It's still continuing. Nothing is getting better, like maybe somebody thinks. It's really, really very hard time. And when I came to Ezer, to Sayer at, his store, I came like, Ezer, I don't know what I want to buy. He said, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. There are people, there are soldiers. I want to help them, to hit them. So he was sitting with me nights and days, you know, packaging and taking and counting. It's something incredible. I couldn't make it without him. That's really the thing that I want to say. And what we need now, we really need help to buy clothes for soldiers. It's not even the soldiers like in the army. It's people that they want to go out, they want to fight, but they don't have nothing to put on themselves. Exactly. Also for people, for children, hot clothes, shoes, you know, basic needs, basic things. Also the sleeping bags, because a lot of people from east of Ukraine coming to the west of Ukraine and sleeping in the schools. So this is really things that we need.
I can finish with one small story. That in one of the days she called me, she said, listen, I got another 100 shekel, another person we can help.
Yeah, you guys are doing,
every shekel, it's another person.
Every shekel, every dollar helps. You're totally right about that. And look, you two are doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
It's really nice to, to wrap it up with a story of, with some hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure. All right, and that's all for our coverage this evening, but our team here at I24 News is continuing to bring you all the latest on the situation. We'll be back again next week, but for now, good night.